Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. We're just going to talk about the severe weather threat. I haven't made a video in a while because we haven't seen too much severe weather, especially in the area that I cover, which is Alabama and the Deep South. This is going to change. We're going to see likely several severe thunderstorms today and into tonight and into tomorrow morning. It's going to be a mess. But before we talk about that, let's take a look at what's going on right now. We have this big snowstorm up here, stretching across from New York all the way down here to Nebraska, and everywhere in between is pretty much under a blizzard warning. So just to kind of take a look at what's going on out here, we are going to switch to some of these traffic cameras and see if we can see anything snowfall wise, see how the road conditions are doing out here. It's no good. This is in near Wisconsin here, and you can just see there's like a foot of snow on the road. This is not good for any driving out here. If you're going to be traveling between Nebraska, Wisconsin, Michigan, especially northern Michigan, could receive some pretty bad impacts today, especially with ice. That's kind of going to be a corridor here. If you're in Indiana, particularly northern Indiana here, there's a high wind warning out there. And this is important because that means non-thunderstorm related winds could like blow stuff around. Like there could be damage to outdoor objects, could be damage to trees out here. Kankakee, this is kind of sucky to see because Kankakee and Aroma Park did get hit by one of the strongest tornadoes of the year about 2 days ago. Kind of went right through here, went through Hopkins Park and Slam Lake Village. It pretty much leveled the entire city. And now they're under high wind warning with storms that are approaching severe limits just off to their west. And these storms are like not weak. Like you can clearly see here, the storms are very strong. They're their echo tops are high, as you can see here. They're very tall thunderstorms. And these big kind of radial, like this big blob that you see here, is just a sign that the storms are gaining strength. So we're switching to reflectivity here. We have a couple strong storms down here, but this is not really the severe weather threat. This is the beginning, but this is not the severe weather threat. The severe weather threat will be occurring way further south of this location. But if you're in between Fort Wayne to Lafayette, anywhere pretty much in northern Indiana, be watching out for these storms. There's some of them that are already approaching severe limits, and they need to be monitored over the coming hours. Now, across the area that'll likely see the worst impacts, they're stretching here from Memphis to Nashville to Huntsville, kind of this triangulated area right here. We're really just dealing with freezing warnings, freezing advisories, and wind advisories because there's going to be some strong winds out here today. Winds can be gusting upwards of 30 miles an hour, all the way down from Birmingham to Memphis to Nashville, this kind of deep south area. Even Atlanta could be getting hit on those wind gusts. You need to be watched, maybe tie down outdoor objects throughout the day. I'm not going to say yes or no to that because some areas get locally enhanced wind. If you know, you know who you are, if you get that. Corinth, Luca, New Albany. New Albany got hit by a tornado a couple months ago. This entire area has had tornadoes in the past, and it's not going to really be something new. But freeze watches and freeze warnings, I think, are going to be kind of misleading right now because, yeah, there's going to be freezing, but that's after the storms. The main focus is the storms, and it's a pretty intense risk that we're about to talk about. And that intense risk comes in multiple forms. As you can see here, it's an enhanced risk stretching from the exact same area, Huntsville, down to Birmingham. Almost gets in there, doesn't really. I'd still be watching for tornadoes in Birmingham. Arkansas, Louisiana. This is 3 out of 5, which is pretty significant. We had just a swath of tornadoes go from Mississippi, Oxford, to Alabama, to Georgia in an enhanced risk. These enhanced risks do not play around. That's when the National Weather Service is really starting to call this an outbreak. So you start seeing enhanced. Here we see Indianapolis is in that today for those storms. Indianapolis needs to be watching out. I talked about that. Indiana, Illinois, even Michigan. And Michigan's weird, so is Wisconsin, because they're going to get severe weather and then switch to a blizzard right afterwards. This storm is just crazy. And to really illustrate this, as well as an enhanced risk down here for hail, if we switch to the tornado threat here, I mean, it's just not good. We have a hatched here, which is EF2 plus. You don't want to see that. Anything EF2 or greater can usually take a house, but we're not going to say that that's going to happen a lot. We're not going to say it's going to happen at all. We're just going to say it's a possibility. It's going to be one around 5 to 10% within a 25-mile given area, where weaker tornadoes will occur at a much higher rate. So we have a 10% area right here near Arkansas, northern Mississippi, Tennessee, and Kentucky. That right there is going to be another one of those bullseyes, especially for discrete supercell thunderstorms ahead of the line. Squall line of storms, by the way. So that's going to be an area we're watching, as well as South Alabama for the same reason. Supercells are going to be coming out of the Gulf, and they're going to be reaching their peak intensity right there near Alabama. That's why there's that 5% risk. A lot of people today are driving from north to south. They're going to be heading from their homes out here in Illinois, Kentucky, Alabama, and going south to the Gulf Coast. Well, you happen to go through the 10% risk. It's going to be quite dangerous. So everyone around here in the 5% and in the 2%, because 5% is pretty significant as well, needs to have their phones turned all the way up with emergency alerts selected. That's very important. These type of situations, everyone is pretty much familiar with it around here, but some of us, they just updated it. Some of us may not be all the way familiar with this. So still keeping the same risk. Moving on, we have our wind risk today. That's really bad. We have a 45% risk going from southern Indiana to northern Mississippi. That's pretty much for destructive weather. That's going to be where, when the line of storms moves through some homes, moves through some neighborhoods, there could be structural damage to those homes and or neighborhoods, especially in this area. It's going to be common, especially with the hatched risk, which goes over pretty much 75 miles an hour. As you can see, there could be strong wind. You can read this if you want to. You pause the screen. This whole thing kind of talks about what's going to happen today. Anywhere in the red is going to be expecting pretty much the same thing as the purple, except what I'm thinking is there'll be less isolated areas of wind gusts over 75 miles an hour. There'll still be wind over 75 miles an hour pretty much all across the line, but it'll be less frequent than it will be in the 45% area. Hail is going to be one of the bigger threats today. Really, I'm watching two areas, despite what this says. That's what they just updated. Is I'm watching southern Missouri and Paducah and into Clarksville. That kind of area, this northern part, this yellow here, this 15%, is where I'm watching for some of the biggest hail today. It could be up to tennis ball size. And that's because of those isolated storms out ahead of such severe weather line that we should be seeing. Northern Louisiana, I'm not seeing that threat to that all that much. I'm not really sure why that's highlighted, but it's the National Weather Service. They're better than this at me, but they're saying that northern Louisiana is going to get hail. I mean, I could see it, but really, it's that area right there near Missouri, Paducah, Clarksville. We'll see if I'm right. And down here in the Florida Panhandle, Alabama is also an area, particularly a Mobile area, where there could be some bigger hailstones falling. Tomorrow's probably going to be the biggest severe weather outbreak for the East Coast in years. Probably a significant amount of years. Here we have an enhanced risk going from Pennsylvania to Georgia with a moderate risk. This is this is really bad. We have everyone in this red here needs to just, I don't know. They just need to be in their shelter because it's going to be a lot of storms, a lot of wind. Have your emergency alerts turned on. Don't be scared. Be prepared. Anywhere in here, in the oranges and in the reds here, I mean, that's just going to be significant severe weather and a significant amount set severe weather. That's going to boil down to the tornado risk here. That is ridiculous. We have a moderate risk going from Maryland going all the way down to South Carolina. So in this area, we're pretty much expecting at this point extreme severe weather. Same thing for South Alabama is also that hatched risk as well. Anywhere hatched here, there could be tornadoes, EF2 or plus. The wind risk here is extremely high. I'm expecting this, by the way, to be upgraded to a high risk by tomorrow. I think it's very possible. We do have a 60% wind risk here, which will be the highest that you can. Well, you can go 75% and 90%, but that's almost never going to happen. 60% is historic. That is historic. And it's for Washington. You don't see this ever. For Raleigh, Arlington, anywhere in these areas just needs to expect damage. It's going to be a lot of wind here. This is a very, very enhanced risk. I think later today, especially near Arkansas, today, not tomorrow. This is tomorrow. I'm thinking today, near northern Mississippi, Clarksville, Tennessee, Paducah, and Arkansas, they could be upgraded to a moderate risk and get these same kind of outlooks. But it's not going to be as bad as tomorrow. The hail risk is quite high as well, with an hatched area for large hail moving from those selected areas. Taking a closer look for the southeastern threats here, we have pretty much the entire risk area within this screen. And we're going to start by seeing some showers, possibly around Arkansas. This is going to be your initiation period in about 5 hours. Maybe midday, lunchtime, eating lunch with your family. Need to be watching out here in northern Arkansas for a brief tornado and or some damaging winds. It is possible. It's not likely, but it is possible out here. We could have a stronger updraft. And that kind of moves over Arkansas, getting really intense here by midday. We can pretty much start seeing tornadoes. You even see a little helicity track right there. There could be some tornadic development. By the way, southern Florida is getting hammered by just wind and hail, so it's another area that we should be watching, but tornado threat there is low. It's really here, as well as the precipitation out ahead of the line, could also become tornadic. In this environment, it's pretty dangerous. You have some elevated thunderstorms out here in northern Georgia. These shouldn't be too much of a problem. Their severe weather risk is arriving later. Taking it an hour forward, and things start escalating quickly. We already have an embedded supercell on the line here, setting up just north of Little Rock. And we start to see the tail of the line stretching into Texas. Anywhere along this line at this time, there could be significant damaging winds, frequent lightning, and large hail. Moving this forward, we're getting really intense now. We have a couple storms here with helicity tracks. Some storms developing out ahead of the line. And the line's going to essentially, those storms are going to kind of mature into supercell thunderstorms. These will be where your highest tornado risk of the day are. We have one here, a couple just forming here in southwestern Arkansas. These isolated super thunderstorms, they could actually have a localized tornado outbreak, not across the line. Well, across the line, you see these embedded supercells, but also in front of the line with these supercells. And those are going to kind of merge with the line. And what that's going to do is it's going to strengthen everything. So everything in the line here is just going to immediately begin to strengthen as everything begins to combine. And you can just see the line essentially explode in intensity here. As it gets into Mississippi, you can see this is really concerning. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 embedded supercells or more in the line. Those are rotating thunderstorms. We have just a string of them stretching from Louisiana all the way down to Houston. Houston needs to be watching out for a supercell or two later in the afternoon because of this event. And that kind of continues. Like as it gets into Mississippi, this is just brutal. We have a lot of hail, a lot of small hail here on the front of the line, which is a sign of intensity. We have these little black circles here just representing areas where a tornado could form. That's going to be your helicity track. Still those embedded supercells stretching all the way down to Houston. And once it crosses the Alabama border, it reaches max intensity right around here. This is its maximum intensity, where we are going to be expecting the front of the line to undergo its max organization. The line is going to be so organized that the outflow boundary, or the area of cool air, and the rain are going to be pretty much on top of each other. So it's just going to be a wall. And this wall is going to be stretching from Nashville, a wall of tornadoes and wind. This happens all the time with derechos and stuff, these big long lines of thunderstorms. But within these lines, there's going to be just so many tornadoes that they might just warn the entire line. Is what happens a lot, which means you could be expecting tornado warnings as a pretty likelihood here, stretching all the way down from Nashville to Birmingham, just because of all these different helicity tracks. And you can really see this when I turn on the helicity. Look at this. Anywhere where you see a green swath is where a tornado is possible. Starts here in Arkansas, like I was talking about. It really gets going as it gets right in where its max intensity is at, right around here. Not really. I think Madison County and points east will be spared for the maximum intensity. It'll get a slightly lesser version of the line, but it'll be pretty much unnoticeable. More like the Florence area, Russellville, Oxford, Mississippi, New Albany, Mississippi, Tupelo, Mississippi are areas that are going to be experiencing this max intensity portion of the line. And this is just terrible. And once it gets to Madison County with Huntsville, the line is going to, it does this thing that models don't pick up on it really well, where once it gets past Harvest, so once it gets past basically Athens and Florence, Sand Mountain and Montesano Mountains start interacting with it. And it's really in that area where we can have a localized tornado threat. Especially when it gets over Sand Mountain there, as it stretches over the Appalachians, tornadoes should be peppering the line at this point because of just the different kinks in the line, and it's just going to be a mess. Still continuing with the extremely strong line of thunderstorms. It's likely going to be tornado warned for most of its front and have a bunch of severe thunderstorm warnings. Atlanta's going to get slammed. Expect 70 to 80 mile an hour winds in Atlanta is going to be possible. Moving into South Carolina, the line starts to weaken, but then we get into more significant severe weather threat As you can see, that line just gets super intense. You see the helicity tracks all along its front, and that's just embedded supercells are going to be pretty much everywhere. Looking at the helicity swaths here, you can see that the wide array of swaths here from the line are going to be over here in northern Alabama, Tennessee. You start to see those swaths pick up, especially in these big long bands straight through Washington D.C. is very possible. There could be tornado warnings in that area. On a brighter note, here's another model that's kind of seeing the line in a different way. Yes, it shows a strong line in Arkansas that's going to organize pretty quickly and move through northern Alabama at a very extreme intensity. This particular model, the Nam nest, when you see a thicker line on the Nam nest, that is a stronger line. So we do see quite a thick line here, kind of moving through of just extreme wind, heavy rain, and hail. That gets into Georgia, Rome. You can see extreme organization along the line. That could be tornadic in ways. Atlanta again gets slammed. It could be it has a helicity track right over Atlanta, so that would be great. And then the severe weather threat tomorrow gets going. And the good news that I was going to talk about is a nice precipitation type. Once the line kind of moves through, right, it causes all that severe weather. We switch to snow out here in Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas, and even northern Alabama. And we even get a little bit of a snowstorm later in the day. So this will happen around midday, lunchtime. We will have heavy snow occurring here from Nashville all the way down to Birmingham is a possibility. Or we could have flurries, but this is looking more like heavier precipitation. And that's going to move into Knoxville, Tennessee with flurries left behind for northern Alabama. Due to the short time of this, accumulation isn't looking huge, but we could have an inch up to 2 inches out here in northern Madison County. Could have an inch to 2 inches here near Nashville, and we just gonna have a trace pretty much stretching from southern Mississippi to northern Georgia, and we'll have about half a foot in the mountains. And that's all I have for you today. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so you can see more videos like these. If the severe weather threat really starts to get bad, I will attempt to go live today, this afternoon. I can't really guarantee anything. It would have to be extreme. So, generally, phones turn on. Severe weather threat, just say it starts now. Because you could have an isolated storm. Everything needs to be on. Everything needs to be watched. And everyone needs to be saying weather aware. Don't be scared. Be prepared, as we always say. It's 9:28 a.m. Pretty soon it will be the afternoon. We'll start getting that heating. And you'll start to feel the air begin to stabilize. We need everyone to be safe here from Indianapolis down to Louisiana. We're in this together. Everyone can do it. We can make it through this event. And we can make it through ones to come. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.